Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, wherever you may be or watching from whichever time zone. My name is Mary Len. I'm the founder and CEO of Customized Training Solutions Private Limited, or CTS, and we brand ourselves as Asia's most trusted customized solutions partner, and we are registered as an event services company in Singapore, organizing training and summits to generate profit, cost savings, and impact towards your business. In today's fast-paced, tech-driven workplace, managers and heads of departments find themselves at the crossroad of strategy and execution, and they are the link between the top leaders and the team that delivers day-to-day outcomes. But when communication falters, collaboration weakens, and technology is underutilized, progress stalls and burnout rises. And that's the reason why we're having this conversation to share with you like a snippet of, or a teaser to the Interconnected Leader Summit, which is designed to help you lead with clarity, influence across boundaries, manage stress, inspire your team, and make data-driven decisions that move the needle. And today, it's my great pleasure to introduce our guest and speaker for the upcoming event. Charmaine Valmontes serves as the Chief Information Security and Data Privacy Officer for the Aboitiz Equity Ventures Incorporated and its managed business units and the Aboitiz Foods. She has over 30 years of experience in the U.S. military and the private sector, and her expertise lies in building cyber risk and cybersecurity programs with highly effective teams focused on reducing the risk of security breaches, minimizing disruptions to preserve the brand reputation and build client confidence. So without so much further ado, I'd like to invite Charmaine. Do you want to add anything to that introduction?
No, thank you very much for the introduction. I truly appreciate and thank you for having me here and welcome everyone to this particular discussion, right?
Thank you. And let's get started. So, why is being an interconnected leader important?
So, interconnected leadership, unlike the traditional, the hierarchical models where we prioritize authority or authentic relationships, right?
Mhm,
We collaborate in the old way, and that those are quite diverse over time, right?
mhm,
So, being an interconnected leader matters because in this day and age, it fosters trust, right? Fosters the trust, the collaboration, and provides the psychological safety, right? So, it builds trust because we are being honest, right? We also talk about our learnings, showing a bit of our vulnerabilities because no one is 100% perfect, right? So by doing so, we're creating the safe space, right, for our teams to generate and iterate on ideas, learn about risks, and foster that continuous learning environment so that we have increased engagement, right, and innovation. So the second is it enables adaptability and resiliency, right? So we all know that we are in very diverse and changing and evolving times, right? There are challenges that are new, and so people continue to connect in different ways, right? Ideas, the resources we connect through geographical boundaries. As an example, you and I are in two different countries, right? And it allows us to enable this dialogue and adapt quickly. The third one is diversity. Diversity and ensuring that we collate those diverse creative ideas and innovations, right? No one has a sole proprietorship on great ideas, right?
mhm.
And so it means that we value the diverse talents, the viewpoints, right, and unlocking other ideas, thus creating this environment of continuous learning and innovation. And then if it's interconnected, we are interconnected. We break down the silos, right? Instead of silos, we kind of build bridges, connection, right? So we're dismantling the virus because we're no longer thinking, oh, it's not a hierarchical for. I need to speak to Marilyn because she knows about people, managing people. It's not necessary that talk to my people and my people will talk to your people. That is the old way of doing things. Today, we want to be more interconnected regardless of where we sit in the organization, right? And it also provides, again, the ability to manage problems and decisions that are sustainable over time, right? So we also want to encourage accountability, responsible, uh, purposive, or purposeful leadership,
Mm.
right? So when we do that, we're really harnessing on the well-being of our team, well-being of our counterparts, our colleagues. We're being ethical about it, and of course, the decisions are made together, right? Um, as a result of which is the last key point, is it makes work fun, right? It drives the engagement because we are able to interconnect with whomever we need to connect with, regardless of where we sit in the organization. We have a mentality that is cohesive, right? We're all working towards a goal, right?
Mhm.
And by doing so, employees feel valued, right? They are there for the larger purpose, right? They have a purpose. I do A because of B, right? And therefore, it increases your um, team engagement, individual contributor. It motivates them, and at the end of the day, you're going to retain these same people, right?
Wow, thank you so much for that. It's very, I would say, comprehensive way of defining and sharing the importance. And if I got the top five that you've shared, of course, I would say it's trust and psychological safety, adaptability and resiliency, importance of diversity for continuous innovation,
Mm.
managing problems and decisions to create a sustainable result as well. And of course, I really like the last one that you've also shared about having or ensuring purpose and team engagement to make work fun, because quite a bit of our time is spent in the office, right? So might as well make it fun. So I really love that. And you've shared some of the challenges and benefits already while you were sharing your definition and the importance of interconnected benefit. Is there anything more that you'd like to elaborate or highlight on this next question on what's the common challenges and benefits of having this in your organization?
So one of the key, just like we have benefits, we are also going to have challenges, right? So while interconnected leadership is powerful, right, it also comes with some challenges that we must manage, right? So number one, you can't have a room full of subject matter experts in one room. It's going to blow up, right? Interconnected leaders must be able to be identified, right, and engaged. Not just, I have a room full of subject matter experts, right? So we need to have also a goal, where do we want to take a discussion? So it must be purposive, right? If we don't do so, it'll create, just blind spots, hazards, misalignments. The decisions may be scattered, right? So even in the developing what you're going to discuss, you also need to carefully define what SMEs and who you're going to have, right? We talked about breaking down the silos, right? But we also have to be cognizant that outside of the organization, there are organizations that still work in the hierarchical, departmental um, mentality, right? And so we need to understand and we need to be able to um, engage with them in the way that they know how, right? We don't lead them out because they have an old way of doing things. We actually need to find a way to engage and understand, right? Another one is really about how do we connect. Face to face is so much better than, you know, what we do today, right? Than virtual. Naturally, yes, that is what we intend. However, that is the complexity that's brought about by globalization, different way of working, right? So in a hybrid environment, we need to be able to understand how we communicate virtually and still be able to harness the benefits of shared um, decisions, shared intelligence, continuous learning in that process. And in doing so, one of the key things we need to look into is clear communication, established um, ways of communicating, much like we did before we started our discussion today. You know, we kind of laid out the ground rules, what we're going to cover, to put everybody in the same frame of mind. And the last is really will always happen in any environment. There's always be competing priorities, right? There's many more disadvantages, but I think it can be um, overcome by clearly defined goals, clearly defined messages, right? Um, and allowing organizations to ensure that they have focused time on the discussion also. Because competing priorities means I'm too busy and I only have X amount of minutes to tend to this particular discussion, and therefore I didn't pretty much give it too much thought. So we need to still do the 80-20 rule in that aspect. No? Pareto principle still works in this. And for you, Marilyn, I'm sure you've had this challenge of putting together like-minded people from different backgrounds and identifying what you want them to talk about, right? So it's the same concept, but we have to teach it to everyone, right, in the way that they're doing it. And the last is really there's always going to be differing differences in opinions, right? Stakeholders can normally focus on their narrow interests, and in doing so, polarization can occur, right? Um, and when we do that, there's a one side A versus B versus C, and so we want to maintain a cohesion, right? Especially as we are in a hybrid setting, and we now want to be able to manage complexity, right, in that environment. And again, clearly identified priorities. Um, you can overcome the personal conflicts if there are limitations by engaging with people, with the individuals in the team, so that you can prevent any polarizing viewpoints, right? Or welcome the polarizing viewpoints and address them effectively so as to provide more information to our audience, right?
Yes, thank
So
you so.
these are things that we want to look into and manage. We want to manage those risks.
Yes, and just to highlight what you've shared again, when people or when organization don't have interconnected leader, there will be like as you've mentioned, hazards, misalignments, silos, and because we, of course, everyone has different priorities, right? It's given. We have different opinions as well as you've mentioned, and so it's important for us to be interconnected. And you've mentioned earlier about like having this purposive goal, and there's always has to be a goal that comes with it. And of course, clear communications so that everything will go smoothly. And so how can leader inspire their team to be interconnected?
So one of the key things is the key item or the key action item to be an interconnected leader is really around open minded, being open minded. You know, that's always the being open to learning, right? Being able to understand that um, there are differences. But those differences are um, positive. Those are benefits, right? Um, we need to be self-aware, right? Authentic and be self-aware. We need to constantly examine our principles, our actions, because we need to be aware of how we are perceived and how do we come across to another entity, to another person, right? Um, Again, don't be afraid to be vulnerable, right? Don't be afraid to say, I learned ABC. These are things that we've learned over time, which is good because it allows your counterpart to understand, well, they're not just an expert, they know and learn this through these processes, right? And systems thinking, we think about decisions. The decisions that we make have effects, right? They create effects down the line. So we need to be open and the possibilities of implications of those decisions, right? So they can have an effect on the organization, or beyond it, right? And as much as we say it, diversity and inclusivity is something that we must train ourselves, right? And diversity inclusivity means that we are also open to other opinions, not just the gender, not just um, beliefs, but also their opinions, right? Different opinions should be welcome, right? And should be respected. Um, so we have to champion those differences, and we use that to create that culture of innovation, right? And we have to be flexible, right? Flexible and courageous. We should be prepared to transcend the limitations that we face, and then modify the strategies that we're going to utilize. And of course, we need to be decisive about it. So we can't decide on it tomorrow when we can decide on it today. Um, in a discussion point where there are differing opinions, as you learn through that discussion, you can actually change your viewpoint without limiting your authenticity, right? In fact, being open and honest about what you're learning uh, gives your audience, right, or the people that you are communicating with, the ability or the benefit of really capturing the learning that you are providing or that you're sharing with them, and vice versa.
Wow, thank you for all those tips. And again, if I were to highlight something, again, everything starts with self-awareness, right? And we have to be open-minded, open to learning, and be able to be flexible and courageous, as you've mentioned, to come up with that decision that is very inclusive as well. So thank you so much for that. And would you like to invite our audience to join the Interconnected Leader Summit?
Absolutely. So you're all invited to the Interconnected Leader. It's about building bridges for organizational success. That is a summit. It'll be held on August the 30th. And this event will be twofold. It'll be online as well as face to face. That will be at the Crown Plaza, Manila.
Thank you so much and see you there.
Absolutely. My pleasure.
See you there.